when you are creating an examination report, it has to look like an exam report. And it will look this way when you format, right? If you are creating a data report, it has to look that way. Formatting. All right, good morning, class.
Good morning.
How are you all doing? All right, so this morning we are going to begin our training on Microsoft Word. So we are going to learn how to use Microsoft Word. We used Excel the last time, and I think we made some progress. So today we are going to start Microsoft Word. And of all the Microsoft productivity programs, Word is one of the most used programs everywhere in the world. Yes, so it is one of the programs you are expected to know how to use very well. And Word is under the general topic called word processing. Can I use your book? Let me check something here. All right, so word processing. So we are going to look at what word processing is about, and then we will focus on Microsoft Word. Now, sometimes people only know about Microsoft Word and do not have any idea about word processing. When you talk about word processing, people look at you some way, like the way you people are looking at me now. When you talk about word processing, people don't understand it very much. So we want to look at word processing in general. I think in other parts of the world, people understand word processing very well, and we need to take it from there. So we'll look at what word processing is, what a word processor is. Then we will pick one of the word processors, which is Microsoft Word, which is one of the word processors. So our lesson is on word processing. Let me check if I have a clip here on word processing, and I will play that clip for you to see. All right. So before I start, I want to ask a simple question. I want to ask what a word processor is. Who can tell me what a word processor is? What is a word processor? What is a word processor? I'm sure some of you have read. You've read what word processing is. So who can tell me what a word processor is? Okay, so you've tried. You said it is what? A software program that helps you to what? Create or print a document. Okay, so we have word processing, and the program we want to learn is a word processor. So when you hear that Microsoft Word is a word processor, you have to understand it that way. All right, I'm going to play one or two clips to explain word processing, then we will delve into it. So kindly turn off the light for me. Joel, I said Joel. Evans, don't worry about that one. This one.
When you come to think of it, an ordinary typewriter is a pretty limited device. You type in some words, and all it does is give you a paper copy. If you want to file the words, you need a second device, a filing cabinet. If you want to send the words to someone else, you need another device.
Okay, please, are you following? Please pay attention.
When you come to think of it, an ordinary typewriter is a pretty limited device. You type in some words, and all it does is give you a paper copy. If you want to file the words, you need a second device, a filing cabinet. If you want to send the words to someone else, you need another device, a mailbox. And if you want to rearrange the words, you need yet more devices, such as a pair of scissors and some glue for cutting and pasting. Now consider the word processor, which is really just a computer, plus a word processing program. You use the computer's keyboard to send your words into the computer's memory. And you use the computer's screen as a window on these words, so that you can see what you're doing as you use the word processing program to cut and paste the words to your satisfaction. And then there are several things that you can do. You can file the words on one or more storage disks. You can print them on a printer, and you can pass them on to a modem to be sent to some other computer. This means that once you have a word processing system, you really have a self-contained little office with its own built-in typewriter, filing cabinet, mailbox, and scissors and glue, all rolled into one.
All right, so before computers came, we had several ways of creating documents. And one of the ways we created documents was through the typewriter machine. Last time you saw how the typewriter was, right? We used it here. Now, the typewriter was a good machine, but it had a lot of limitations. It had a lot of problems. For example, if you want to edit with a typewriter, you cannot change what you have printed on the paper, because as you type, it prints directly on the paper. If you want to edit, it's not possible. Sometimes you can go back and hit on the word again, but most of the time it doesn't appear well. And so the typewriter had several limitations. Another problem with the typewriter was that if you needed more copies, you couldn't get more copies from the typewriter. Let's say we want to print exam papers for all the students here, and we only have a typewriter. We cannot print more copies for everyone. Who knows what we have to do? We have to type and type and type and type, and that will waste a lot of time, right? Imagine you are printing for a school that has 900 students. You, the typist, you are in trouble. So it's going to be a lot of problems. Apart from that, you can't even save your work. You can't type with a typewriter and save it so that next time you use it again. It's not possible. So there are a lot of limitations with a typewriter, and that is what word processing came to solve. And so we invented, first of all, some machines called word processors that had some of these features to help us solve problems. Then later, we created word processors as computer programs. So at first, when word processors came, they were machines like what this picture is having here. You will see that it's a machine that can do some typing. So we had word processing machines, and after some time, word processors became computer programs. So today we have computer programs that are called word processors. So when you hear Microsoft Word is just one of the word processors. It's very, very important to understand. This machine here is also a word processor. This machine here is a word processor. Today, word processors are not machines, they are programs. All right, so let's go back and check how word processors came to be. So I want to play this next clip to explain what word processors are. So let's watch this one.
Here are a few commonly used applications: Microsoft Word, Apple Word Pages, Corel Word Perfect, Lotus Word Pro, Google Docs. Do you know what is common among them? They are all word processors.
Please, are you following?
Yes.
So these are even some examples of some word processors. From today, keep word processing. Don't worry. Keep word processing and word processors in your mind. The programs we see here, which one is the first one here? Microsoft Word. Next one. If you remember, when we were learning about Excel, we talked about Apple iWork what? Numbers. I don't know if you remember. Apple iWork Numbers. So Apple iWork is like Microsoft Office. The way Microsoft has Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Apple also has Apple iWork Numbers, Pages, Presentation. They also have their set of Office programs. All right. So we also have another program here called what? Corel Word. And then we have this one here called Lotus Word Pro. Do you remember Lotus 1, 2, 3?
Yes.
Okay, that was a spreadsheet program that is discontinued. Then we have another popular word processor here called Google. Now, this word processor is quite popular by Google. Okay, it's quite popular. And Word is also very popular. But some of these word processors, some of you have not seen them before. But all these programs are called, they are called what? They are called what? Word processors. So when they ask you what type of software is Microsoft Word, you say, oh, Microsoft Word is what? It's a word processor. Give an example of a word processor or a word processing program. Your example is simple, Microsoft Word. There are some other examples you do not know. This is the number 2 when it comes to word processor ranking. Word is number 1 the whole world. This number 2 from Google called what? Google Docs. So let's continue with this video and see what. Let's listen to what we will get from this video.
But what is a word processor? What is it used for? Let's find out. A word processor is a software program that enables you to create a document, edit it, store it electronically, and also print the document.
Please, are you following?
Yes.
When they ask you what is a word processor, it says that a word processor is a software program to what? Used to create a document, used to edit a document, used to what? Store documents electronically, and then what? Can Microsoft Word do all of these things?
Yes.
So Microsoft Word is a word processor. Any program that can do all these things is a word processor. We'll look at the features of a word processor.
It is so much easier to use a word processor as compared to a typewriter. That is because a word processor is much faster than a typewriter. It is easy to correct errors and make changes in the document. Spellings are checked automatically in these softwares. Pictures can be inserted in the documents. Documents can be saved and worked on in future. Documents can be printed exactly like they appear on the computer screen. In the future lessons, We will learn how to use Microsoft Word, which is a commonly used word processor.
Alright, so I like this video because it throws more light on what I want to talk about. So let's look at what word processing is. Alright, so word processing refers to, number one, the creation, editing, formatting, storage, and printing of electronic words. Now, when they ask you in general, what is word processing? Here we are not talking about what is a word processor. What is word processing? It says that word processing refers to the creation, editing, formatting, storage, and printing of electronic documents. It was the replacement to the old-fashioned way of creating documents. Who can tell me the old-fashioned way of creating documents?
Typewriter.
In the past, we used typewriters. So word processors were created to replace the old way of creating documents with the typewriter machine. An ordinary typewriter is a limited device. When you type into it, all it does is to give you a paper copy. It does not provide the ability to what? To what? To edit. So typewriters do not provide the ability to save, edit, proofread, or print multiple copies at once. I like proofread. Who can explain proofread? What is proofread? Yes. Okay, so after you type your document, before printing, we call something proofreading or proofing. Proofreading simply refers to reading through your work to check for errors. When you use a typewriter, you don't read through before you print. Please, as you type, it is what? It is printed already, so you will not go back and do any proofreading. So these were limitations we had with the typewriter machine, and so we knew that we had to come up with another machine. So word processing was the solution to this major problem in office productivity in the 80s and in the 90s. So in the 80s and 90s, if you were a business person or a career person at that time, all you wanted was to get your own word processor. Today we have modern technology that people are aspiring to get. In the 80s and 90s, every well-to-do person was looking for his own word processor because that was a new technology at the time. Are you following? That was something that will help you work faster and be more productive. So word processing came at that time. So word processing was one of the earliest breakthroughs with the introduction of the personal computer and quickly became widely used around the world. When the PC came, one of the problems PC solved was word processing. Now, before the 80s, we didn't have personal, or before the 70s, we didn't have personal computers. It was around the 80s that PCs started coming well and spreading to individuals. And one of the solutions that made PCs spread was because PCs were word processors, or PCs could do word processing. So if you had a PC, you didn't need a typewriter, and you could use a word processor to do all the amazing things typewriters couldn't do at the time. And so most people bought PCs just because of word processing. Most people bought PCs because they wanted to do word processing. All right. So my question here is, what then is a word processor? Please, I want you to focus. Are you following? A word processor is a computer software program. A word processor is what? Okay, so first of all, a word processor is a software program. It's a computer program. It's an application. I told you that before, word processors came out as standalone machines. So you could buy the machine as a word processor. Today, such a machine will not be that useful because a computer can do it. And so word processors today are software programs. So today, when you are asked what a word processor is, you don't say it's an electronic machine. It is a software, computer software program. Now, what does it do? A word processor is a computer software program that enables you to create a document, edit it, save, and also print it. This is a word processor. It is so much easier to use a word processor as compared to a typewriter because, number one, a word processor is much faster than a typewriter. Is that true?
Yes.
Who can tell me how? How is a word processor faster? Because the typewriter, you can also type fast. So what do we mean by word processor is faster? Okay, so like the example I gave, if you want to print for 900 people, if with a typewriter, it will take you 9 months. But with a word processor, it will take you less than, if you have a good printer, you can even use 9 minutes. That is speed. All right. Number two, it is easy to correct errors and make changes in the document. With a word processor, it is easy to correct errors and make changes. Number three, spellings are checked automatically in word processor. This is one of the features of word processors. If you develop a word processor and it cannot do this, it is not a word processor. Every word processor is able to do what we call spell checking. Spellings are checked automatically. When we say spellings are checked automatically, does it make sense to you? How do we mean? It corrects. No, this is not autocorrection. We are talking about spell checking. Autocorrection is different. Spell checking is also different. So, yes, so someone said it will do what? So this is the best word processor in the world. Microsoft has won it. Microsoft is the number one word processor. You see? So today, keep Microsoft Word under word processing in your mind. Don't just know that there's a program called Microsoft Word. Word is a word processor, and there are other word processors. Today we'll be looking at some of them. So let me type something right here for us to see how it can correct the mistakes. So I'm going here to type a word. For example, I want to type productivity. Now this is a correct word, right? Now let's say I forget to bring my C here and I try moving forward. You see that the word has been what? Underlined. So productivity has been underlined. This is called spell checking. We have auto corrections, but this is spell checking. So this is one of the features of a word processor. So when you have an entire document, a word processor should be able to scan through the entire document and underline any word that is spelled wrongly. That is one of the features of word processors. So this spell checking. We'll continue. Let me continue reading. We'll come back here. Now, with number 4, it says that pictures can be what? Pictures can be inserted in the document. I've never seen someone using a typewriter and has been able to insert a picture. Hey, I've never seen some before. I don't know if you have seen some before, but for me, I've never seen someone using a typewriter and has been able to insert a photograph. All right. If you are very creative, you can use symbols to create some shapes. If you are very creative, you can use symbols to create some shapes, but that is all you can do with a typewriter. You can't insert photos. Okay, number 5, it says documents can be what? Saved and worked on in the future. Documents can be saved. Typewriters do not save documents. There are some typewriters that evolved, that were built electronically, and some of them have some memory chips. And with those ones, they try to do some recording, and even it's difficult. So the typewriter we know cannot save anything. All right. Number 6 here says that documents can be printed exactly as they appear, and multiple copies can be printed from word processors. So with word processors, you see what you want to print before you print. Is that okay? Okay, so let's look at the key tasks of word processing. What are the key tasks of word processing? Now, these key tasks, let me read. It says that every word processor has 5 key tasks that is able to perform. If you have a program that cannot perform these 5 tasks, then it is not a word processor. What are the 5 tasks that a word processor can perform? They are, number 1, create. A word processor should be able to create a document. Number 2 is edit. Make changes to an existing document. So a word processor should be able to make changes to an existing document. Number 3 is format. Apply various styles to enhance the appearance of a document. Number 4, save. Store a document in the computer for future use. Print. Have your documents copied on a piece of paper as output. So a word processor can do these 5 things, and I want you to keep them in your mind. I'm going to ask you to tell me these 5 things, because this is what defines a word processor. It can create, it can edit, it can format, it can save and print. These are the features of a word processor. Please, are you here? Yes. Okay. Later, I'm going to focus, when we get to Word, I'm going to focus a lot on formatting, because formatting is like the major skill you need when it comes to word processing. Formatting. So as you learn to use a computer, put more effort into learning how to format documents professionally. It is your formatting that will make your documents appear well, appear professional, presentable. So formatting is very, very important. All right. I'm going to do a quick read through this and we'll continue. It says that brief history of word processing. In the 60s, word processors were standalone office machines that combined the keyboard, text entry, and printing functions of an electric typewriter with a recording unit, either tape or floppy disk, and a simple dedicated computer processor for the editing of text. So this is what I talked about. It says that in the 60s, word processors came out as machines. So these machines, people were buying them. Can you see one here? And it says that they were standalone office machines, and they combined the keyboard with printing functions and a recording unit. They used tapes or floppy disks. So this machine here has a slot for floppy disks. If you remember the floppy disk, this is where we inserted the floppy disk. Okay. Although features and designs varied among manufacturers and models, and new features were added as technology advanced, word processors typically featured a monochrome display and the ability to save documents on memory cards and diskettes. So these word processors, they were electronic machines. They were not manual like the typewriter. These were machines and they had some memory in them. And they had a monochrome display. That means one color display. If the screen is black, your text is going to be a one color text. Later models introduced innovations such as spell checking and improved formatting options. So as these type word processors evolved, later models brought in new features such as checking spellings. In the 60s, 70s, and 80s, well, in the 60s and 70s, when you talk about word processors, you're actually referring to machines. You are referring to what? Machines. So, for example, when we talk about a fridge, what comes to mind? It's a machine, right? It's an electronic machine. So, in those days, when you talk about word processors, they were machines. So, those in the business field, they knew word processors as machines. Today, word processors are not machines. Today, when you talk about word processors, what are they? They are software programs. Okay, good. Now, as the more versatile combination of personal computers and printers became commonplace and computer software applications for word processing became popular, most machine companies stopped manufacturing dedicated word processor machines. As of 2009, there were only 2 US companies called Classic and AlphaSmart which still made them, word processor machines. Many older machines, however, remain in use. So when computers started coming, they stopped manufacturing those machines. Modern word processors are word processor programs running on general purpose computers. They take advantage of a graphical user interface, providing some form of WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get editing. Typical features of a modern word processor include multiple font sets, spell checking, grammar checking, a built-in thesaurus, automatic text correction, web integration, HTML conversion, pre-formatted publication projects such as newsletters and to-do lists, and much more. So today, these are some of the features of modern word processors. They can do these things. All right. So this is an example of a cute word processor machine that someone has kept till today. All right. So over here, we are going to look at some of the examples of word processors. Remember, Microsoft Word is under the umbrella of word processors. Are you following? Yes. So keep that in mind and understand that Microsoft Word is not the only word processor out there. At least you are supposed to remember 5 word processors at least. Now check this icon here and tell me which program it is. What is this? This is Microsoft Word. So here I'm talking about examples of word processors. I'm going to show you the examples, but let me show you some of these pictures first. This icon here, you have to recognize it. You have to, what is this? Google Docs. Now, if you know Microsoft Word, you have to know Google Docs. Google Docs is another very popular word processor. Then we talked about the iWork Pages. If you're a Mac user like me, on Mac they call it Pages. They just call it Pages. Their spreadsheet program, they just call it Numbers. But the full name is Apple iWork Pages. The spreadsheet is Apple iWork Numbers. The same way Microsoft Word, when you check on your machine, you'll find it as, let me check on my machine and show you how they saved it. If you check on your machine, this is how they've saved Word. What do you see here? It's just called Word. But we know that it was made by Microsoft and it's under Microsoft Office. So we call it Microsoft Office Word, but you can simply refer to it as Word. All right, let's continue. So let's look at the examples. Now, there are hundreds of word processing software programs. Below are the top 10 word processors which are commonly used today. Listen, it says there are hundreds of word processing programs. Below are the top what? Top 10 which are commonly used when? Today. So if you don't know about any of them, it means you do not know, but people are using them. So let's look at some of them. The first one here is Microsoft Word. So Microsoft Word is undoubtedly the leading word processor in the whole wide world. Are you following? Yeah. We also have Google what? Google Docs is another word processor. In your examination, you'll be asked to list about 5 word processors. So keep that in mind. We have Apple iWork Pages. So here I'm supposed to add pages to it. It's Apple iWork Pages. If I say Apple iWork, I've not said anything. It's Apple iWork what? Pages. Then we have Coral Word Perfect, and we have a program from Apache. Apache is also oh, you people, why? It's not true. Eh? Okay, fine. Now, Apache is a brand. And Apache, if you are into IT, you do a lot of Apache. You understand Apache because we have Apache servers for web design. We have Apache servers for programming. We have a lot of Apache stuff. So don't let the name sound strange to you. Like the way we have Linux and Oracle. Oracle, the first time I talked about Oracle, some people said it's a Nigerian movie. Please. In IT, we don't see it that way. So we have Apache. Apache is a common name in IT. So we have Apache OpenOffice Writer. Then we have LibreOffice Writer. Last time we looked at the LibreOffice, right? Yeah. Okay, so LibreOffice is also another popular productivity suite, and they have their writer. So their word processor is called LibreOffice Writer. If you're a Linux user, your word processor is LibreOffice Writer. The Apache OpenOffice Writer is very common. Look at their icon. Let me show you the icon. It's very, very common. Sorry. It's very, very common, and it is a free program. Office Word is not free. Apache OpenOffice Writer is very free. It's free. It's free. You just download it and use it. You get everything for free. So OpenOffice. So most people have this on their computers. Okay. So we also have WPS Writer. We have WordPad. WordPad is very common. Every Windows computer has a second word processor called WordPad. So even if you have not installed Office on your machine, you have this one, WordPad. Please, have you seen this before? And WordPad looks quite similar to Microsoft Word. It looks like Microsoft Word. Let me open it here. Let me look for it. WordPad. Okay, have you seen it here? This is WordPad. When you open WordPad, it looks like Microsoft Word. Have you seen it? This is very similar to Microsoft Word. WordPad. So the modern WordPad, the older ones do not look much like this, but the modern ones look so much like Word. Please, can you see this? Yes. This is like Microsoft Word. This is called WordPad. WordPad. And this WordPad is on every Windows computer. You don't have to install it to have it. It comes with the operating system. So if you have your Windows computer, you have WordPad. Is that okay? Okay, good. All right, so I'll be going around very soon. I'm going to ask everyone. We'll turn on the light and capture everyone will ask you to give one example of a word processor. Okay, we have Scrivener and a byword. A byword. Okay, so after we talk about after you give me the examples, we are going to look at the features of word processors, and we'll look at the advantages of using a word processor. This is very important. In any word processing examination, you'll be asked to list features of a word processor, and you'll be asked to give advantages of word processors. So remember, examples of word processors, the features of word processors, advantages of word processors, and the key tasks of a word processor. Hello? I gave you 5 key tasks of a word processor. I want someone to tell me what they are. If you want to just raise your hand, I'll call you. If you want to say it, raise your hand, I'll call you. Okay, so I see, okay, Sambet. It's used to create, okay. It's used to do what? Create a document. Okay. Edit.
And
Format. And then
save and print.
Because the camera is on you, I forgot it. Hey. All right. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to ask everyone to give me one example of a word processor. So let me start from our class rep. All right, so Madam Comfort, give us an example of a word processor. Apple iWork. Apple iWork is like saying Microsoft Office. If you say Microsoft Office, you have mentioned a collection of programs. So when you say iWork, you have to be specific. LibreOffice Writer. Excellent. Yes.
WPS Writer.
WPS Writer. Good. Good. Yes, right. Google Docs. Okay. WordPad. Yes. Cora what? Cora what? Cora what? Cora Word Perfect. Okay. I think it's coming close so that the audio can be captured well, because if it doesn't come close, we won't get the audio well. Good. Leslie, you're doing a great job. Okay. So, Henry. Abby-word. Okay. Abby-word or Abby-word is the same thing. Jemima. Microsoft Word. Okay. And WordPad. Okay. All right. So I want us to try and exhaust them before we start repeating. So I don't want to be hearing WordPad like that. Madam Millicent. Apple iWork pages. Okay, that's good. Okay, Martha. Okay. Apache Open Office Writer. Please remember 5. Remember 5 at least. Yes, Madam. Pardon? LibreOffice Writer. Excellent. Samson. WPS Writer. That's good. Evans. Google Docs. I like that. That is very classic. No one mentioned Google Docs here. That's very classic. Google Docs. Who mentioned Google Docs? Bright.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's good. Bright, you're also classic. All right. Kekeli. Scrivener. Wow, that's great. Yes. Apache Open Office Writer. Okay. Okay. And WPS Writer. Okay. Perfect. Cora Word Perfect, just like your name. Okay, that's good. And Fasilatu.
Apple iWork page.
Apple
iWork page.
iWork Pages. All right.
Abai
Word. Okay. Scrivener. All right. So you've all done very well. And these are examples of word processors. And I'm asking you to give us examples of word processors. Do you know why? Because most people do not know that we have other word processors. Most people only know of Microsoft Word. They don't know what word processing is. They don't know word processors. They only know Word, Microsoft Word. Yeah, so I just want to emphasize that we have other word processors. Is that okay? All right. Now, we'll be looking at some of the common features of word processors. All right, so we are continuing. We want to look at common features of Microsoft Word. I want you to open your book and look at the common features of Microsoft Word so that I can keep the lights on for some time. So common features of Microsoft Word. Who can tell me the first one? What is the first features, common features, not advantages? Record. Okay, common features of word processors. What's the first one? Okay, so you see GUI. GUI or GUI stands for Graphical User Interface. So today, word processors are having graphical user interfaces. With the word processor machines that came in the past, they were only text-based. You didn't have a graphical user interface. So you could only type on the computer, but only text. And that was advanced at the time. Today, we need the GUI, which is Graphical User Interface, so that we can change colors, we can underline, we can move our mouse to click on things, insert pictures, and all that. So this is one of the features. So remember, there's the features of word processors. Number 2, advanced formatting options. Word processors should be able to format documents professionally. Advanced formatting. So this is what I'm going to focus on when we start using Microsoft Word. Formatting professionally. When you are creating an examination report, it has to look like an exam report. And it will look this way when you format, right? If you are creating a data report, it has to look that way. Formatting. If you don't know how to format, you can't present or create a professional looking work. So formatting is what you should focus on. So we'll be using the formatting features in Microsoft Word. All right. Number 3, we have what? Page settings. So number 1 is GUI, Graphical User Interface. Number 2 is advanced formatting options. Number 3 is page settings. Number 4 is what? WYSIWYG. WYSIWYG, what does it stand for? Okay, so WYSIWYG is a system where editing software allows content to be edited in a form that resembles its appearance when printed or displayed as a finished product. such as a printed document, web page, or slide presentation. So what you see is what you get, WYSIWYG. So WYSIWYG is common in word processing. All right. The number 5 is what? As a word processor, you should be able to cut, copy, and do what? And paste. Number 6 is what? Grammar, spelling and grammar checking. Wow. Spelling and grammar checking. Spelling and grammar checking. So a word processor should be able to do spell checking and grammar checking. Please, are you here? Spell checking and grammar checking. What do we mean by grammar? What is grammar? What is grammar? Pardon? Correct use of English language. Okay, so it's more like the construction of sentences. It's more like the construction of what? Sentences. So knowing how to use the right words to construct the right, or to construct your sentences correctly. Yes, in English, every word belongs to a part of speech. So to construct a sentence, you need to use the right words to make the sentence sound correct in the English language. So for your sentence to sound correct, you need to know the right words to use. So when you make a mistake in your grammar, if your grammar is not right, Microsoft Word will check your grammar for you, or a word processor will check your grammar for you and tell you that, madam, you've made some mistakes here. So it's supposed to be this way or that way. So these are some of the features of word processors. Number 7 says what? Ready-made what? Templates. So there are templates in word processors. Templates are already designed documents that you have to edit or customize for yourself. So if you want to create, let's say, a CV, we already have CVs built into the program. Let me show you. So when you open to Microsoft Word, you can, let me click on File and New. When you come to File and New, you can see over here that we have some documents down here. Please, can you see the ones here? These are templates. These are templates. So whatever you want to create, you can find it here as a template, and you can edit it. So templates are there for editing. If you have a template, so this is a resume. Let me click on this resume, and do you see what happened? Immediately I click on resume, they've given me a sample resume. So all I will do is to edit. So they will give you the format, how it's supposed to be, and all I will do is to edit it and print it. So if you don't want to design from scratch, you can use a template. So a template is not a document that you designed yourself, but it's a document designed by the program itself and stored in the program, so that if you want to create something similar, you get a format. Look at something professional as this. If you are supposed to create this and you don't know how to design all these things, you can download this template, and all you do is to edit the text. When you edit the text, it becomes yours, and you print, and it looks very professional already. So they've done the formatting and everything for you. All you do is to put in your text or change the text they have to yours, and you are done. Is that okay? All right, so this is called templates, or these are called templates. Now we also have web compatibility. So modern word processors should be compatible with the web. So with Microsoft Word, we have a web interface where you can use Word to view a web page or even create a web page. Okay, now let's talk about the advantages of a word processor, and we'll bring the part 1 of our lecture to an end, and the part 2 will be Microsoft Word itself. So advantages of using a word processor. Number 1 is the ability to insert pictures, tables, lists, and other objects. Advantages of word processor: the ability to insert pictures, tables, lists, and other objects. Now we talk about the advantages because we remember the olden way of creating documents, and those olden methods were not advantageous to us. So today, having these word processors, we can see what we can do now that we couldn't do before. Okay, number 2, it says the ability to combine documents or incorporate text from one document into another without having to retype. So if you have 2 documents that you want to combine, you don't have to retype. You can just copy and paste, put them together, and there you go. So to talk about the advantages, you can just think of the limitations of the typewriter and talk about what a word processor can do. Number 3 is ability to move selections of text to another part of the document. Wow. So if I have text, I can highlight and drag to another part of the document, or cut and paste to another part of the document. Number 4, the ability to add headers and footers that appear on every single page in the document, not age, every single page in the document. Please, are you following? Number 5, the ability to emphasize particular words or phrases by underlining, making bold, changing the font style and size. So with a word processor, you are able to emphasize certain words and phrases by underlining, making bold or making italics, changing font style, the font size, and these are all features. All right. Number 6, the ability to correct mistakes before the final document is printed is an advantage. So when we talk about advantages, just think about what the typewriter couldn't do and what word processors can do. Number 7, the ability to store typed documents in the computer for future use or amendments or reprinting. So these are some of the advantages of using a word processor. And on that note, I'm going to summarize the first part of my lecture, and I'm going to put this video together and see how it will come. So I want to end it and we'll see what to do next time. So I'm going to ask 1 or 2 questions and we'll close. What are the key tasks of a word processor? And I'll call you and you tell me. So Bright, what are the key tasks of a word processor? You're able to create, edit, format, save, and print. Excellent. Excellent. Splendid. All right. So I'm going to call someone else to give me, I think I'll go here. Fasilatu. Give me 3 examples of word processors. WordPad, Microsoft Word,
Apple
iWork Pages. Now, usually when you are asked to give examples, don't forget Google Docs. Okay. So when you think about Microsoft Word, Google Docs, then you mention some of the rest. Apache OpenOffice Writer is very common. LibreOffice Writer is very common. I want you to mention the ones that are very common. So when you look in the book, the ones I have listed on top, they are the most common ones. So Word is the first, second is Google Docs, then we have the Apple iWork Pages, and so on. All right, so I need one more. Okay, some people have run away from the class, so they don't want me to call them. Okay, Kekeli, are you there? Kekeli, give me 2 advantages of using a word processor. If you use a word processor, what are some of the advantages? Okay. Other objects.
Other objects.
Okay. uh-huh.
The ability to correct mistakes before the final settlement is created.
That is exceptional. Let's clap for Kekeli. You've done well. All right. So that is fine. You want to say something? You've read it. Oh, they are on the screen. Oh no, I don't think she looked on the screen. I don't think she looked on the screen. All right, so this is our first online class. I'm going to put it online, and I want all of you to watch it. And other students will also watch it. So let's see how it will go. So by this evening, go to Professor Fadam's YouTube channel, and you can watch it and watch some of my other old videos, old lectures. Especially there's a video I posted like 2 days ago called How to Grow Your Business with Social Media. So if you want to know how to use social media to grow your business, go and watch that video. So go online, go and watch it. And if you have not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe. All right, so thank you very much. I'll see you in the next video.